Local news is changing, and not just in Tulsa, but across the country. New outlets and new kinds of outlets are emerging as a lot of old ones struggle to survive. In Oklahoma, a respected journalist who used to call Tulsa home is now back to help run one of those new kinds of outlets after years of working with big-name national media. Ziva Branstetter, a former longtime Tulsa World editor and writer, co-founder of The Frontier in Tulsa, and former editor at Reveal, The Washington Post, and ProPublica, is now the CEO of a new nonprofit media outlet called Tulsa Flyer. In this week's episode, I talked to Ziva about why she came back, what she hopes to build here in Tulsa and in Oklahoma, and what the future of local journalism looks like. This is One More Thing with Nathan Thompson. Ziva, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Now, this is real interesting because you've been at some of the biggest newsrooms in the country. We're talking Washington Post, ProPublica, and you decided to come back to Tulsa. What made you come back to Tulsa?
Tulsa is just home. It is always where I raised my family, and it's where my heart is. You and I were joking, when I walked in here that I have a 918 tattoo, literally, and so this has always been home. And I've always it was just a perfect opportunity, melding both journalism and public service, and in my own community, and that was just an easy call for me.
And the 918 tattoo, that's a new thing. You got that when you came back for this time, right?
I did, yes. I got this like a month or two ago. It's the only tattoo anyone has in my family. I don't plan to get any more, but it just reminds me, again, of where my heart is, where my family is, what's important to me. Tulsa is a very special community. I've always been like an evangelist for Tulsa in D.C., in New York. I think it's a very underrated community, and, I'm really proud to be creating something new here to help people.
And the Tulsa Flyer, this is a startup. You guys are starting. You've had a startup in Tulsa before with The Frontier. Does that help you at all for this startup?
A little bit. With The Frontier, I'm really proud of what we accomplished. 10 years later, it's going strong. It has doubled in staff. There's 8. It's an accountability investigative newsroom, so it's not as broad scale for sure as what we're doing at the Flyer. And what that experience taught me was just not to have any fear, and to not let other people's sort of predictions of success or failure limit my courage to try something new. And so I think obviously you have to be grounded in research and in stats and in data, and make sure that what you're doing is smart. And I feel very strongly, and so do all the people supporting this, that there is a deep need in Tulsa for news that makes us a better community, that tells the full story of all of Tulsa, and especially gives people the information they need to live their lives, they need, and then that makes their lives better, sort of more connected. There's a want, to live my life in a better way, and then the information to help each other, if that makes sense. So I'm really excited about this. But yes, starting The Frontier definitely gave me the courage to jump into this, wholeheartedly.
Is this a mindset? You talk about helping the community and giving them the news they need. Do you look at this as a mindset more of like a traditional newspaper, how you're trying to give information on a wide range of things? Or is it, I feel like The Frontier is a little more focused on a certain kind of news gathering?
Yeah, The Frontier definitely is focused on investigative accountability journalism, and we will definitely have some of that as well at the Flyer. And we're going to have news about the arts and culture, about all of the incredible things there are to do in Tulsa, food. We're going to have a lot of that kind of coverage. We're going to have features, daily news, quick turns. I have an accountability kind of background, and I want to make sure that we are, upholding those standards. But yeah, we're going to be much more broad-based. I will say it is the approach of a newspaper with the new media lens. So multi-platform, a lot of social media messaging to different audiences who don't have time to read, even a 500-word story, and sort of engaging deeply in communities that I feel like at traditional newspapers that I've been in, felt like maybe that wasn't our job. Well, it is our job, to really get out and talk to people and find out what they need to know, and then do that.
In this long career you've had in journalism and media and newspapers, is there a moment or is there some experience that really shaped how you view what a news organization should be?
I'd say it's a collection of experiences that I've had ever since I started working at the Tulsa Tribune, to the Tulsa World, 24 years there, to the Frontier, to the Post, especially at ProPublica, and seeing how journalism can change lives and free people who are wrongly convicted, change laws, put people in prison who maybe need to be there, but also just give them the information. Like, I got a lot of reaction from the coverage I did of nursing homes when I was at the Tulsa World, and it's sort of bread and butter kind of watchdog reporting that a lot of investigative reporters don't find particularly interesting. And I just found that every time I wrote a story about a bad nursing home, I got a lot of reaction. So, that comes from a place of, we as reporters, I think, sometimes tend to write about stories that we find interesting. But if you can flip that script and really understand in a deep, real way what people need from us, make sure they have that too, right? Yes, we can do those high-profile stories that can compete in awards and stuff, but really people just need information to live their lives better. So especially education, healthcare, housing, grocery costs, these just bread and butter issues. So I think it's a combination of seeing things happen when I did stories and edited stories and got stories out there, but also seeing the sort of small things that landed in a way that I didn't think they would.
That's interesting. Now, for a lot of people, listening to this right now, they might not have heard of the Tulsa Flyer before now. You mentioned it. You kind of answered this a little bit about what it's all about. How do they intake this information in your stories? This is a website. It's free, correct? And
Correct.
Kind of the business model for the Tulsa Flyer.
Thank you for asking. So the Tulsa Flyer is supported by a broad base of members of our community who have given money to get us started, and we're a nonprofit. So we're not owned by out-of-state for-profit interests that are telling us what we can and can't say. We're, sort of run by ourselves and by people in this community. We have a great board of people who are members of the community, nonprofit leaders, business leaders, folks with a lot of deep experience in building nonprofit businesses and for-profit businesses, and journalism experience as well. So we have a board, and the whole message of the Flyer is just giving the community the news that it needs, and making sure that all of the community is seen in a way that maybe they haven't felt seen in the past. So we're going to be partnering with Spanish language, La Semana, Que Buena. We're going to be we're publishing the Oklahoma Eagle. That's part of what our mission is. Still owned by the Goodwin family, but we're going to be publishing it. We have quadrupled their staff already. So you're going to see a lot more coverage of things that are happening in North and East Tulsa and all of Tulsa in a way that maybe other news organizations here want to do. But we all are going to work together to do this. So we're really interested in partnering and being good partners in Tulsa with other media outlets, with community groups, and adding to it, not competing.
In your career, I mean, the state of news media, newspapers, TV stations, it's changed a lot. Mm-hmm. And now it's hard to make money as you deliver the news nowadays. There's so much competing information streams, including the internet, podcasts.
Yeah, they're all out there.
Does it make it more challenging even than when you helped start the Frontier to start a new thing?
Sure. Yeah, I think it is more challenging, and I'm embracing that challenge and excited about it. And manifesting it. One of the things I feel like is that people get the information they need, and they'll be loyal to that news source, and they'll contribute to it. I think it's easier. A nonprofit model is frankly easier. Yes, there's been a huge death of, I think, 3,000 or so newspapers across the country in the last, since 2005. But there's been a really impressive and exciting growth in nonprofit media. And I think in the primarily print space, you're seeing like the ProPublicas, the Texas Tribunes, building really sustainable business models. And so part of what we want to do is build a sustainable business model in Tulsa, a strong nonprofit newsroom, and you have to give people what they need before they'll, support you with their money. So I'm firmly convinced that our plan will achieve that. And, because we're going to be listening to people. Day to day, we're going to be out there in the community, going to community events, hosting community events, asking for feedback, being engaged in a way that I don't think I've ever been at a news organization. Is one of the things that I'm most excited about.
And you How long have you been gone from Tulsa once you left the frontier? You were until now?
Yeah, I mean, there's the pandemic years, which was sort of, I was able to come back to Tulsa some, but really 2015, I've been working in national media since 2015. So West Coast, East Coast.
It feels like it's been a decade since you lived here. Tulsa's a lot different, right? Green Country is a lot different. What have you noticed the difference?
Well, Tulsa's kind of having a moment. It's like there's the lowdown and people are like have discovered Tulsa in a way. It feels like there's some momentum building about Tulsa. The arts, the whole arts district where our offices, the Flyer are, just an explosion in, I think, growth. Of course, the gathering place, our home's over there, very close, walking distance. And there's a lot of excitement and energy in Tulsa. And we don't feel like, we're a second class to Oklahoma City kind of city anymore. It's like we have arrived and we are arriving and a little bit cool, which is fun. I've been watching The Lowdown and I absolutely love it. And I'm very bullish on Tulsa.
Was that part of what played into you deciding to come back here? Is the moment that Tulsa is having?
No, but it's a nice plus. I mean, I've always felt like I have a T-shirt that says like Tulsa's the next Nashville, and that's crossed out, and it's the next Memphis or something like that, and like Tulsa's the new Tulsa. And I feel very firmly that it's always been a great city, kind people, hardworking people, great arts, culture, but a good place to raise a family, right? I raised my family here, cost of living. So it's always been like this hidden secret. And I think it's starting to get out. But really what drew me here is just this incredible opportunity to start something new in the community I love, in the profession that I love. So it was just like it checked every box for me.
Now, a broader picture here, the state of news media nationally, there's a lot more distrust maybe than there used to be a decade or two ago, for sure. And that's a national conversation about news media, but it's also a local conversation because what people are feeling nationally is what people are feeling sometimes here in Tulsa and Green Country. How do you handle that distrust of the media that some people have now?
Yeah, I think it's, for one thing, it is that distrust has actually been earned. This is not like, that's so unfair. They don't trust us. They should. Well, why should people? Like there have been ways that the media, they have not listened to people. And that's what I'm talking about, this model where we should be deeply engaged in conversations with community groups, with people from all walks of life in our community on a regular basis. And the ideas should be coming from them. It should be a two-way conversation. But for too long, media organizations it was a one-way conversation. We're going to tell you what's important. You're going to read it, consume it, and then so on. And so, to flip that, we have to have a two-way conversation all the time because it's no fun to be in a one-way conversation. And so I think it's up to us to earn that trust back. But the studies do show that people tend to trust their local media orgs, much deeper than they do national media orgs. So I think we have a lot going for us. We just have to show people that we can be trusted. We have to earn it.
And how do you go out in the community and do that, earn that trust, have it be a two-way conversation? Is that the community events you're talking about that you have been doing, or is there more to it than that?
So we have a lot of cool new things that we're doing with the Flyer. That's why I say kind of old media values, but new media lens, which is one of the programs called the Documenters. So we have 20 or so. I think we're going to ultimately have 40 trained people. They're not journalists, but they're trained to go to public meetings and just be the eyes and ears at public meetings all over this area, and they're going to file sort of a dispatch about what they think is important at these meetings, and it's going to be a pretty raw and unfiltered account of what is going on at all kinds of public meetings that no one has been sitting in, journalists haven't been sitting in. That will be available to the public, to other news media organizations, to plumb that for ideas. And so I think just being at these agencies is important. But yeah, we're going to be like we were at the fair every day. I'm sure you guys were too. Yeah. Talk to more than 1,000 people. I spent 3 shifts at the fair just talking to people and listening. So we have a community advisory board that's made up of a pretty good cross-section of organizations and sort of constituencies in Tulsa. And we're listening to them, our board members, but also reporters are getting out in the community. And yeah, we're engaging we want to partner with different community groups. We want to make sure that what we're doing is driven by what people need. So That's a new way to do journalism. It's not something that we're exactly used to. So I think it's important that we continue to have that listening in whatever way that looks like.
You said you did 3 shifts at the fair.
Yeah.
You've done all kinds of other community events. Talking to these people and potential viewers and readers, is there anything that surprised you that they're looking for?
I think it shouldn't surprise me. What came up more and more often in these conversations were people wanted to know about education. They were very hungry to know about certain topics. I think stuff they're worried about. And I think the willingness and openness to consuming a new source of media was very encouraging to me. You know, I felt like with these conversations, we would have like a barrier immediately, like, we've all got a lot on our plates, right? We're consuming we've already got our feed curated, right? And we're like, I don't want to add something else to my feed because I don't know if it's any good. But the openness that people had once they found out nonprofit, you know, that this is something of the people and for the people, they were very open to it. And the program, like the documenters that we have, that kind of cuts across political spectrums. Everyone is interested in having their tax dollars watched. You know this. You're a journalist, right? It doesn't matter what room you go into, red state, blue state, whatever. People are interested in making sure that journalists are out there doing those jobs. And so that program especially seemed to land with people.
It's interesting in that answer. You mentioned being a nonprofit helps. Have you noticed when you're talking to people that intrigues them, it maybe makes them trust you more?
I think it opens their mind to, okay, well, once you, this is not a knock on for-profit media. I would say the majority of my career has been spent in for-profit media, and I'm proud of that. I'm not saying there's a right model and a wrong model, but what the nonprofit model does is it takes that off the table in terms of we've got to maximize, value. And that is only seen as a dollar and cents kind of way. Luckily, sometimes you have for-profit owners who, like the Lortons I worked for many years, who are they're ready to invest money for quality's sake, right? But I do feel that people are more open to for-profit media, nonprofit media, because it takes the issue off the table of someone telling us what to say because we're worried we might offend advertisers, all of that. So I think just showing people that you're unbiased and we're going to publish the names of anyone who goes over $5,000, for example. We're going to be very transparent about who our contributors are, what our ethics policies are. You still have to have those practices in place to gain trust, right? It's not an immediate open door, but I do find that people were interested in, it's not out of state, it's not for profit.
One of the challenges, and we've talked about it a couple of times here, all these other information streams, but there's a generation, maybe a couple generations of people out there that get a lot of their news from TikTok, from Instagram. You guys are embracing that, it seems like, social media aspect. But is the goal to get them to see it on Instagram or TikTok and lead them to the website and the longer form stories? Or how do you tackle those two things of these short form entertainment / news streams and trying to get people to maybe read a little longer form?
It is a challenge. I mean, I have a Gen Z kid and I have a millennial kid, so and have certainly worked in news organizations where there are, across the spectrum, people from all these generations. We all consume news differently, right? But I think it's okay for people to stay in the platform of their choice. Let's say a very controversial thing. I think it's okay for them to. When I hear the phrase "they get their news from social media," what that means to me is, well, it depends on the source still. So, is this a reliable, trustworthy source of information, like Fox 23, like the Tulsa Flyer and the Frontier? And if it is, I think it's okay for a young person to just stay on that platform, get that information. But we're building a brand that they can trust. And hopefully when they want to take some time on a weekend to read a deeper dive, they'll go to the website and read it. But people don't really go to websites anymore, right? They click a link maybe, but we need to have news that is told on the platforms that works for that particular audience, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. Is that hard to do?
It is hard to do. You have to be really thoughtful.
Yeah.
You have to employ people who understand that those native platforms. We have some great social media director. We have some a young kind of energetic staff that they really understand these platforms. They've been on them. They've grown up on them. And I think authenticity is job number one. But they've really been able to, we've been sort of doing social media posts before our launch, October 15th, and they've done a great job of very quickly, getting to what the news is. Ryan Walters, resignation, for example. They told that whole story. We had a long print story in the Eagle, but they were able to, if you just stayed on Instagram or you just stayed on our platform, our social media platforms, you would know enough. If that's what you wanted that much information, you got it. So I think it's okay if they want to stay on those platforms as long as we're building a brand that we deliver authentic, honest, trustworthy, accurate news.
Just because you mentioned the Eagle right there, it reminded me, how important is it for you to embrace the Eagle and have that be a part of your, Tulsa Flyer organization?
It is a critical part of my job. And honestly, one of the main reasons that I applied for this job. I believe very strongly in the need to bolster what the Eagle is meant. It's the 10th oldest Black-owned newspaper in America. It is an absolute treasure, and the Goodwin family has, been sort of keeping this thing going. And they, I think they have welcomed our partnership with them, and we've hired an editor, and we're, quadrupling their staff basically. So we are very excited and honored the chance to take this institution in Tulsa that has really built deep trust among an important part of the city that has been overlooked by many legacy media organizations, and just sort of make it better. That's all.
I know you're dedicated to journalism. I'm sure you're very excited about this next stage in your journalism career. But for anybody, there's points where they get worn down by their job. But is there something in your career that happened that kind of reminds you why you do this work, and when you're having those tough times, kind of reinvigorates you?
For sure. I mean, I would say there are 4 or 5 points along the way in my career where something major happened because of a story that I was involved with. There was an investigation that I did when I was at the Tulsa World of this nursing home board. They oversee nursing home administrators. And after my investigation, the governor dismissed the entire board and reconstituted it full of people that actually cared about the job that they were doing, and got a couple of people out of prison who'd been wrongfully convicted. That was amazing to sit with them, and see how they were experiencing this world after 20 years that had all the changes in it. I would say the Pulitzer winning project at ProPublica, The Life of the Mother, being able to bring just accurate, information about the medical issues involved without getting into the politics. So it's trying to set the politics aside and trying to reach people no matter what your opinion is on that issue with accurate information. I was proud that we could do that, because that's one of those you're going to step on a third rail if you write about abortion. Well, we're what if we don't write about the politics? What if we just write about actual medical procedures and just sort of speak to, people who have different opinions on that. And I'm proud that, we were able to make a project that met that level of quality in our profession.
It seems like a lot of these that you're mentioning, these are stories or things you did that impacted people's lives, changed their lives in a positive way.
Yeah.
Is that your goal going forward here with the Flyer?
Absolutely. Yeah. We want to make life better by serving people's needs and their wants and help them connect better with each other. And if you do that, if you help people live a better life, a more enjoyable life, and you help them help each other, you're going to build loyalty, and you're going to add to the community. And I'm really excited about that.
You seem pretty bullish on Tulsa and Green Country, optimistic about the direction of Tulsa. Where do you think it'll be in 5 or 10 years?
I mean, I'm really excited about what's happening AI here. The data centers, the growth of that industry. I think our aviation industry has always been really strong. I've seen a lot of growth in our film industry, arts and culture. I think it's going to continue to grow as people find out the secret that the cost of living here is so great. The quality of life is so enjoyable, especially if you're raising a family. But what's really cool is seeing young people come here and stay. The program that pays people $10,000 to
Tulsa Remote.
Yeah, Tulsa Remote. I've talked to numerous people who've been involved in that program, who've stayed here, who came here because of the program.
I talked to someone at the fair who did.
Yeah, I know. It's really cool. So I think I just see Tulsa continuing to grow and expand, and sort of, I think Tulsa's always had this chip on its shoulder, expecting people to realize how great we are. Instead, I think people in Tulsa sort of said, no, we're actually going to do this now, rather than, being defensive about it. Like, we're actually going to expand, we're going to grow, and why not us is the kind of the vibe I really feel like it's changed from when 20 something years ago. And I hope it doesn't grow too big and too fast.
That's our hope, right?
Right. Like, stay small.
We don't want traffic to be crazy.
Right. I still want to be able to get anywhere within 20 minutes. It's one thing when I tell people, like, the cost of living, when I would talk to friends in DC and New York and Oakland about the kind of house you can buy here and the kind of education you have for your kids and the kind of like life you can have and how quickly you can get home and to your kids after, it's just, we're so lucky,
This might be a tough question for you, but when I wrap up my episodes here, because you're so all consumed in getting the Tulsa Flyer started, but I like to ask, what's one thing that's been on your mind lately a lot? I mean, it can be about the Tulsa Flyer, but it can be about anything. It can be about entertainment, like we talked about the Lowdown, or Thunder season starting. I know you like
very excited about that.
But is there one thing that, is in the back of your mind a lot right now in the last week or two?
I would say the need for us as people, human beings in the world, to connect with each other and really talk to each other and try to understand each other on a one-to-one basis is the key to solving what we're all kind of feeling. Like, there's a lot of discussion about what's going on in the news and what is wrong with, America right now. And I think that can be solved by us just like talking to each other. Like, I went and I did a speech at the Cushing Lions Club. It's the second time I've talked to the Cushing Lions Club. I absolutely love it. I will go to any Lions Club, any Rotary Club, especially in smaller towns, because I think we, as, perceived, people of a political spectrum or in the media, we need to be able to make our case to each other, like, as human beings, and not sort of sit back in our silos. So I think what's been on my mind lately is the opportunity we all have to kind of understand each other better. And that is how we're going to fix this thing that we feel like is wrong. That makes sense. So like going to the fair for, and just talking to regular folks about Tulsa Flyer and what we're building was really fun.
And
gave me hope.
You believe you and the Tulsa Flyer is kind of in a unique position to help with what's on your mind with trying to bring people together.
I do. I really do, because I think, look, there's a lot of energy that has been put into this, certainly a lot of resources. We're going to need more. We're going to be asking people to donate what they feel the Flyer, the value that Flyer provides them. But I feel like Tulsa needs this source of information, and that that there's some energy that we're adding that needs to be there. And I firmly believe in my heart that in the power of journalism to make lives better. And that is what underlies this new effort. And I couldn't be more excited to be leading it. It's really humbling. And, there's 25 bright people in the newsroom that are ready to go out and to make it happen. So.
All right. Well, Ziva, thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks again to Ziva Branstetter for joining me. Local journalism is definitely changing fast. It should be interesting to see what Ziva and the team at Tulsa Flyer are building. Make sure you check out their work at tulsaflyer.org. If you enjoyed this episode of One More Thing, please follow the podcast, leave a review, and share it with a friend. I'll see you next week.